This whole argument, another set of parens and divided by right, you can probably guess what's going to happen. Underneath this whole combination, we now have the right chart. So you can see how you could nest this and get some really complex... Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and on this channel we talk about all things programming, tech, data analytics, and research. Today we're going to be talking about the Patchwork package. It's another R package review, and the Patchwork package is really useful for abstracting away the formatting of combining multiple charts and plots that are ggplots in R and making the output more organized, like a grid pattern, or have two on the top and one under the bottom with minimal code. Patchwork achieves this with a math-like syntax that's very simple to understand. There's not too much to it, so it's not going to be very overwhelming. And let's get into it. So jumping right into RStudio, right off the bat, what does this package do? Why should you care? ggplots are very good looking graphics, and sometimes the code to get them to do certain things is just really difficult to figure out. Patchwork abstracts this away with a very easy math-like syntax to make it easy to combine these plots visually in a layout that is aesthetically pleasing. You can see I already have 4 plots made plus them, so we're adding them all to each other. If I run that, it'll add it visually in an overflow grid. So this is like an example of something that Patchwork can do. So we're going to go through all the details, how we can lay these things out, and just what can this package do for you and what are the different layout options. First order of business, as always, we're going to start with a brand new R session. On Mac, it's going to be Control-Shift-F10, or Command-Shift-F10. We want to do a brand new R session so that everything is clean, brand new clean slate. A little bit more housekeeping. I have my R Markdown document. I have some chunk options here for fig height and width. This is so the figures are actually big enough for the charts that I made for this example. So they're set to 9 inches. I got 3 different libraries being loaded. dplyr, just because I have some filtering going on just for the charts that I made. That's its only use. Patchwork and ggplots. This is what we're showing today. Patchwork works with ggplots. On livestream, I've tested, and it does not work with lattice charts, and pretty much all the documentation is pointing to working primarily with ggplot2 created plots. So with that out of the way, I made some sample plots using the add-in I frequently use. I'm not going to pronounce it because I butchered every time, but when you download this package, you get the add-in ggplot2 builder. So I just made some very simple plots with the built-in data sets that come with probably ggplot2 and RStudio. So using those, that's why I'm not going to type out all the code randomly today. So with this, you basically create your plots, and once you have the output looking the way that you like it, you're going to assign those plots to variables. So just to make it easier to understand how I'm actually doing this layout, I actually named the chart something that makes sense. So this first one is going to top, the second chart is going to be assigned to the variable bottom, and now to semantically do this, we're going to say top divided by bottom, and that's all we have to do with this syntax. You take these ggplots in variables, and you do this math-like syntax in the R code chunk area, and now when I run this code, it will produce 2 charts with top on top and bottom on the bottom. So this is a very simple way of just put these 2 charts in this type of layout. No other weird shenanigans about it. Let's say you want to put 2 charts side by side. We're going to repeat. We're just going to create 2 sample plots, and then we're going to assign them to 2 different variables, left and right, and then left plus right. So instead of dividing to put it underneath, we're going to add it together, and it's going to go from left to right. And the output is left to right. So we have a grid, and we have a chord flipped bar chart. Okay, so you might be saying, but I don't like having all of these things assigned to variables and cluttering up my environment. So when you go to your environment pane here in RStudio to see all the currently assigned variables, data imported, and all that stuff, you might not want one of these for every single chart that you're dealing with. That's a fair argument. So what you can actually do with Patchwork is, instead of assigning it to variables, you can just add the 2 charts together, all the chart code. So you can see I have MPG being piped into filter, piped into ggplot. So basically this is all creating a chart, but then at the end I have an additional plus that is adding it to the next ggplot chart. So when we add this extra plus symbol, it does the exact same thing as if we assigned it to variables and then structured that as you've seen in the prior examples. So by doing this, you could daisy chain all of these ggplots together to achieve the same result without doing variable assignment and cluttering up your environment. The only issue is that sometimes it might be hard to debug or find out where the issues are. And that's a fair argument, but different tools for different occasions. So when I run this, it will do exactly what we want, left to right, because it's a plus, not a division, so it's going to be plus. So it does the exact same output as the earlier one, just with no variable assignment. So what happens when we add a bunch of these plots together? If we add 1, 2, 3, 4 of these plots, won't they just scrunch up and look really ugly going all the way from left to right? Well, Patchwork is a little bit smart with this, so it will actually overflow into a grid square if it can. So when we do this and we add 4 charts together, it will produce a overflowed grid. So it's doing a 2x2 grid of these 2 different charts. So with that overflowed grid, we can actually do a little bit of custom formatting by giving it an additional argument. So we can add a plot layout function, and with this we can say, hey, the number of rows we want is 3, and we're going to say by row false. And doing this will give us the output of having 3 rows so that it will flow into each of these rows in the first option and then flow this way. So by saying by row, we're not overflowing left to right and then starting over in the next row. We're going basically by column, so the first column fills up and then the 4th chart goes at the top of the 2nd column. That's why we're doing 3 rows and saying by row is false. So this way it's overflowing vertically top to bottom, and we have 3 rows, 1 and 2 columns. So with this package, you can actually get pretty complex with how you want to nest a lot of these things. And in math, we do the same sort of nesting operation with using parens. So in this case, you can see I have left and then a pipe. The pipe is going to say, hey, this goes on the left, and then everything else is going to be on the right. So what is on the right? That is currently in parens, so a singular operation is going to occur first. We're going to have top divided by bottom. So that first example we saw is going to be completely on the right, while another chart is on the left. So when I run that code, you can see we have one chart on the left, and then the combination of top and bottom are on the right. And this is done by using parens. And if we, just as an example, gave this whole argument another set of parens and divided by right, you can probably guess what's going to happen. Underneath this whole combination, we now have the right chart. So you can see how you could nest this and get some really complex layouts done with minimal syntax. Now with Patchwork, sometimes the plot titling and annotations and all that type of stuff can get a little bit complex, but just as an example, you can go look in the documentation for more about this type of stuff, but just say you have this huge aggregated plot, you have all these combinations in your layout, and you have one giant visualization that is everything you want, and you want to give it a title, just the whole thing, not individual charts. To do that, all you'd have to do is say, hey, here's all of my layout stuff, add it to the function plot annotation, where title equals, whatever your title is. So when we execute this, right here at the top left, here you go. There is your plot annotation. So I hope you find Patchwork a very interesting package. It's a very simple one, very easy to pick up, and I remember when it first started coming out, and just rstats on Twitter was just going crazy about it. It's a very useful package for doing ggplot layouts without having to mess with ggplot layout code and doing any sort of weird combination. Very simple syntax, very easy to use, and honestly very useful. One side note is if you use ggplotly to make interactive ggplots by tossing it into the plotly package, that doesn't work well with Patchwork, and Patchwork does not also work with Lattice. It's primarily made for ggplots. As with all of these package review videos, you can find all of the code and documentation that I've used in my GitHub repo for these package reviews, and a link to that will be in the pinned comment below. If you'd like to suggest video ideas, talk, hang out, or just see what I'm working on, you can join the Discord in the link below. And before I go, a quick shout out to the patrons who support this channel. Thank you, Klaus, Alberto, and Devin. Thank you guys for supporting the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.